Hello and welcome to our podcast from Penn State Extension Farm Stress Team. My name is Sonya and I'm based in Dauphin County. And today I'll be talking with Eric Finkenbinder, and he's our chief meteorologist from ABC 27, a local news station here in Central PA. He's been there for 22 years. Eric, thanks for joining me today.
It's happy to be here.
I'm really interested to hear how you became a meteorologist with your farming background and what that means to you.
Sure. I normally share a couple of stories. I'll see if I can pick one or two. There's five siblings. I'm the middle child. I have an older brother and sister and a younger brother and sister. And there was one time my brothers and I, we all got subscriptions to a magazine as a Christmas present. My younger brother got a truck magazine. My older brother got, I think it was Field and Stream, a hunting and fishing magazine. And my parents gave me astronomy, the subscription to an astronomy magazine. And at the time, I was kind of bummed, like, why astronomy? But they saw something that maybe I didn't at that particular time. So I always had a love for science. I grew up on the farm, and for a lot of people that have been farming for a while, another story I like to tell is I remember in the summertime, right before bed, my dad would always listen to the National Weather Service, and it was that little radio. It looked like kind of fake wood. It had a big space bar button, and I remember he would turn that on every evening. And I even remember the forecaster at the time, Victor Cruz from the National Weather Service in State College, and I just enjoyed hearing basically the forecasting the future. Hearing what's coming up, and we would always prepare the next couple of days based on the weather forecast, especially when it was hay season. And that's kind of how my enjoyment and desire to get into meteorology started, was through farming.
Well, that sounds very similar to probably what a lot of other farm kids did with their parents as well, listening to what the weather was going to be for the next couple of days.
Yeah, and once out of high school, I went to Penn State, and I did get a degree of atmospheric science and graduated in 2003. And wasn't quite sure which way I wanted to go from there. I did like broadcasting, so I did spend a little bit more time in the broadcasting area at Penn State. And for people that have grown up in central Pennsylvania, you may have been familiar with Chuck Rhodes. And he was a longtime weathercaster at ABC 27, and he was also a very integral part of my desire to get into broadcasting too. And I thought, someday if I would be able to end up at ABC 27 and have a chance to work with Chuck, that would just be a dream come true. And I was very, very fortunate to actually have that happen right out of college. I was a weather producer, so I wasn't necessarily on air for a couple of years, but I was able to kind of work with Chuck, and he kind of got me started into the broadcasting. So yeah, I feel very fortunate for how I started my career.
That's great. And I keep thinking, Chuck was definitely a staple in our household for my parents, watching for when the hay was ready, what Chuck was going to forecast for us. So that's some of my first
Oh yeah.
memories. Yeah. So that's some of my first memories as a kid, thinking, oh, okay, farming's fun, the animals, you get to do fun things. Uh, but as a kid, the first stress I heard about was some of the weather related stressors and whether it's going to rain or not.
Yeah. One thing I've learned too is farmers never seem to be happy with the weather. It's always too dry or too wet or too windy or not warm enough or too warm. And I'm the one, I do the same thing. I'm still involved in the farming with the farm that I grew up on. So my siblings and I, we would be the fifth generation, and we've all sort of kind of started our own careers, but it all stemmed from our farming background. And again, that's how it kind of led me into meteorology. But as we're going through a transition ourselves, my younger brother now decided to start farming full time. That was his goal. So after many years of working full time in other places, he's now farming full time, and I still help. I'm more of the laborer now, and it gives me the chance to still enjoy farming that I always have. But at the same time, the stresses too that come with it.
Yeah, and there are quite a few stressors. Do you ever interact with farmers in some of your live events, in your in-person events, and what do they talk to you about?
Yeah, so lately, I'd say over the last 5 years, especially during the winter months, I've been asked to speak at a lot more agricultural events. A couple examples would be the county crop days through Perry County or Lebanon County. Just last year, I spoke at the Mid-Atlantic Fruit and Vegetable Convention. Over the summer, I was able to speak to the No-Till Alliance meeting, just basically showing the evidence of our changing climate locally. I think a lot of the times we hear about a changing climate or climate change through more of a national or global scale, and I kind of bring that down more to how that's really impacting us in agriculture and as farmers.
The climate, even locally, does seem to have changed over the past few years, and I'm wondering, there are certain types of farms that we have, agriculture that we have in our area, whether it's a vineyard, whether it's a hay production, whether it's a dairy farm. Every farm has its own way of dealing with the heat or the drought or the extra rain, that we might be getting. And um, we're always looking for ways to support our farm families and our agribusiness. We try to find ways to support them dealing with stress. And so in Extension, we have some programs that we do use that helps people talk about stress to each other, breaking some of the stigmas, because we know farm folks really are an independent breed and are really reluctant sometimes to even ask for help when things get hard. And sometimes the weather really can make things hard.
I think that would be one of the main stressors when it comes to farming. And what I've noticed too is what a particular type of weather or weather pattern might be very detrimental to one farmer, but at the same time beneficial to another farmer too. So that's what makes it a little tough on my end, where I don't try to I try to be unbiased and just try to keep the forecast where it is and not it's always nice to have rain, but I know in other times it's not nice for maybe another farmer down the road or in another county over. But yeah, I would say weather, especially during the growing season, I would say would be one of the biggest talking points and stressors for a lot of the farmers, especially moving into what is not really, as I call it, weird. The weather's become weird. A given growing season now in the weather, it's no longer an anomaly. It's becoming more normal to see more extreme weather patterns. And I could certainly talk about that just even the last 5 years. I'd say 3 or 4 out of those 5 years, we've had the warmest summers on record locally. It seems like when we get very dry, those times we get rain, we get 2-3 inches of rain, and then we're dry again for an extended period of time. So I try to use what has happened lately as a way for farmers to recognize that and find ways to adapt and become a little more resilient.
Yeah, I think adaptation is definitely one of the keys to combating stress. Also, trying to be as prepared as possible. Trying to anticipate some of the weather patterns can be really tough, and I'm sure you might get a lot of flack for that.
It comes with the the job. Yeah, we certainly get a lot of people that are upset. Our team, and I've worked very hard with our team to make sure we understand the needs of farmers. And we try to present that when we're on TV, but also through our website. We always have what we call a web discussion that we get a little bit more detailed. But when you look at that 7-day forecast, and what I never really liked is when you would look at it and you would see chance for showers, 5 or 6 days down the road. But what does chance of showers mean? Is that in the morning? Does that start in the evening? How much rain? Is it a tenth of an inch? Is it a passing shower? Is it 3 inches? So I try to get our team to become more detailed, giving more time, more, how much are we seeing? When's it going to exit? And it's helpful to the farmer. And again, it's also dealing with those weather patterns that aren't the greatest. And those chances for showers become very important to a lot of the farmers in the summertime, and it's not something that I take very lightly. It's we got to make sure that we're as accurate as we can, especially when we're giving these rain chances during the growing season.
Yeah, you give farm families, people in agribusiness chances to prepare that in 3 days this would be happening probably in the morning. The shower, the 3 inches of rain begins on a Wednesday or whatever it might be. You give them the chance to prepare, and that really is one of those things that can be a stress buster because you know it's coming. You can plan ahead. You can get the hay in ahead of time. You can get the equipment under shelter if you need to. So I know I appreciate seeing them in in my own app whenever I'm viewing the ABC 27 app, and I really appreciate that. So I can only imagine what other farm families and people who do business through agriculture see and can imagine for their own livelihoods.
Yeah, those thunderstorm days in July and August are probably the most aggravating for me because, and when you talk to farmers too, they're like, yeah, those storms, they always seem to go around us. They always seem to run the mountain. And I hear that from every farmer, and I'm like, these thunderstorms have to be hitting somebody. It seems like they're always missing farms and they're hitting somebody else. But that's probably the toughest to try to explain when we're on air. And we use hit or miss storms, and I think for a lot of the farmers and a lot of us, we understand that. But it just gets really tough when you're the one that continues to get missed and someone else is getting hit, and that to me is the hardest to see that. And I can just give a personal example where it was back in 2022. We were not getting those storms at our farm, and it was really tough for me to go to work and track these other storms that everyone else was getting. And you could just sit there, and I would get there hours before the storms develop and just, hope that it would hit our farm, and to see them pass our farm every single time. It was tough. It was tough.
Yeah. So you tell us the weather, you don't control the weather.
That's right. And I can understand how people get very frustrated, especially when you see those storm chances in that forecast, and then you go through that week and you don't get a drop of rain. I have been there too. So I think that's what kind of helps me in my line of work or in my job, because I know what it's like to be that guy that misses those storms and you desperately need them.
Hmm. Thinking about my time as a farm kid and now my parents farming, grain farming, um, yeah, watching the weather, knowing what's going to happen can really make a huge difference in the success of a season and a week. And I appreciate that you take so much time with your team to try to give us all the information that you possibly can.
Yeah, and what we do on air, that only gets us out about 7 days. And as we talked a little bit earlier, I do have more opportunities to speak to farmers when I speak more about climate change itself, and I try to show them the evidence that it's obviously happening and happening locally. And a summer that we just experienced is no longer an anomaly. It's more of what we can anticipate in the future. So obviously there's a lot of resources of how farmers can help to adapt a little bit more. That's sort of out of my line of work. I just try to show them that these very warm summers, especially very warm nighttime temperatures, our wintertime is the fastest warming season. So it's tough to get the ground to even freeze anymore. It seems like every season seems to be changing, except spring. So when we think, well, if we're going to get warm and dry quicker, let's just plant sooner. But what I've noticed is our frost dates and our freeze dates have remained the same. So even though summers are getting warmer, falls are getting warmer, winters are getting warmer, spring seems to stay the same, which again is just another challenge for us moving forward.
And I know there are resources through other extension departments, units that can help farms work through some of these changes that are beyond our control through the weather and the changing patterns of our weather. So there are resources out there for people to be able to maybe not alleviate stress, but lessen the stress of what might be happening weather-wise in the future.
Certainly. Now, I also am fortunate enough to work in my family has some mountain property in a part of Perry County, and I've actually used the Penn State Extension extensively,
Oh,
and
great.
I have gained a lot of experience. And also, one thing I like to kind of tie into is one of the greatest carbon sinks are the trees that we have here in Pennsylvania, and more than 60% of Pennsylvania is covered in trees. So that's another form of agriculture that we have. But yeah, I really think that the value in the Penn State Extension is something that all people in all forms of agriculture should be taking advantage of.
And we're excited to be partners with you, with all of our farm families out there. Thank you, Eric, for joining us. We want to remind everyone that 988 is another one of the resources that is available to everyone, whether you farm or you don't have a farm, to find the resources for you, to find professional help, to find someone to talk to, and also find someone in your own personal circle that you trust that you can talk to be able to have a conversation about the help that you may need.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric, for joining us today. And we want to invite everyone to join us for our next podcast, Real Talk Farm Stress with Penn State Extension. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.